Hello, everybody, and happy Monday. Welcome to Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen. I am your host, but I do not host this show by myself. Michael Dougherty, the a.k.a. Silver Fox, is my co-host. Hi, Mike.
Hey, how you doing, Cary?
I'm really good.
How was your weekend?
You know, it was really good. It was mellow. I hung out with some people, did some fun stuff, and here it is. It's back to Monday, and it's full work week ahead.
And here you and I sit today sharing utility problems. Your power's out.
Well, it will be, yes, from I think they said from 6 to 6 tonight. 6
we were
p.m.
given
to 6 a.m.
We were given a notice that our water was going to be out until 6
You want
o'clock.
to trade?
No.
I'll take the
I can always get a bottle of water, but I can't go get a bottle of electricity.
Exactly. So that's going to be fun. I believe KHTS is going to talk a little bit about later the outages today that's planned here in Santa Clarita. So we'll find that out. But Families in Action is brought to you by your local hometown station, AM 1220. We've been on the air almost 13 years.
13 exciting years.
13 exciting years. How cool is that?
Thank you to Carl and Jerry. Wow.
We sure do appreciate everything that they do and KHTS does, and our board op here. What we do without him?
Justin, who I walked in and called Jason again today.
Uh-oh. Yeah, did you do it again?
I did it again.
That's funny. Also, it's brought to you by Action Family Counseling, which is alcohol and drug rehabilitation centers that we have. It's everything from outpatient to residential to everything in between. And the Action Foundation, then I'm going to let Michael talk about.
The Action Family Foundation, let's touch base on two things. A free parent support group every Tuesday, 7 to 9 at Canyon High School, Cary.
I will be there. I've been running that group for, I can't even tell you. I'll tell you this. How about 25 years, maybe longer?
Wow.
Yeah. Before it was at Canyon, it was at Saugus High School. And before that, it was called Tough Love. It was some other places. But we were actually almost 30 years we were sending counselors. But I've been myself running it for over 20.
Well,
that's
that's one that people need to go to, and it's cool because it's free, and parents can also get some support there, which is a very good thing.
You know what? There's a parent support group, and whatever you're going through with your little angel, no matter how old that kid is, there's parents that's been through that with, and are there to help. So it's an extremely good support group for anybody that's going through anything or for an educational purpose. And then we have 3 counselors that are working with the adolescents, and we deal with everything from substance abuse to self-esteem and everything between.
And then the Action Academy, which is the free public sober school for local junior and senior high school students, and I understand that they're going to be expanding that.
We're looking at it. Yes, we are. We're talking with the school district right now about expanding our sober schools, which is very, very cool.
What a phenomenal thing. What a phenomenal thing. Hey, should we introduce our guests here before we get into some action items?
Why do you want to do that?
I don't know.
Of course we should. You got one of my favorite guests here, one of my favorite people in Santa Clarita.
And you have to say that because he's bigger than you.
No, I have to say that because I mean it.
Oh, okay, good. Just checking.
Yeah.
Well, Dan Broyles, who's one of our favorite folks, is here. He's a pastor. Listen to this. Pastor of care and marriage ministry at Grace Baptist Church in Santa Clarita. He currently oversees the care ministry at Grace Baptist Church, 60 lay counselors, and 20 groups, such as grief, divorce, anger, and it goes on. Previously, he was a social worker at the County of Los Angeles, where he helped children who were abused and neglected. Mr. Broyles, as he's seldom referred to, has an MS in marriage and family therapy with California State University at Northridge. In addition, he has received a BS in Biblical Studies and a BS in Human Family Development from Grace University in Omaha, Nebraska.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
I'm impressed already. Go on.
Oh, no kidding.
Come on, impress me some more.
There's more.
Oh, no.
Mr. Broyles is licensed
Dan, what are you doing?
as a pastor and as a marriage family therapist. Currently, he is a chairman of a local task force with regard to human sex trafficking, and we're going to be talking about that.
Isn't that terrible that we have to have one of those?
It is. And he's the author of a book called Helping Teens at Risk of Suicide. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll take a breath, and we have another guest, Wendy McCadden.
Hi, Wendy.
Now, hi.
How are you? Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Now, she's not on staff at Grace, but she's over there doing a lot of things. She must have written this because it says, Wendy McCadden is married and a wonderful mother of 3 boys.
Oh, are they listening?
No, probably not.
Oh, that's terrible. We'll call them on the break. How's that?
They're boys. They don't listen. So,
I got you.
yeah.
I got you. I don't think my kids are listening either, so I don't feel bad.
She has led the Wounded Hearts Care Group at Grace for 10 years, as well as helping with spiritual care training. She's presented workshops on abuse and how to start an abuse group in Santa Clarita, Pasadena, and in South Korea. So her reach
South
is
Korea.
far.
Wow.
She is passionate about helping others heal from past pain.
Very cool.
So we have some heavyweights here with great backgrounds. Now, we have some action items, Cary.
Let's do the action items, then we'll get to what we're going to do. Yeah.
Now, this one that I'm going to read, this was recently published in the Huffington Post, and this
You
is
know
from...
what? Before you do that,
Okay.
why don't we tell Dan and Wendy what we're thinking about doing? About the alcohol deal. Let's see.
That's a great
What do
idea.
y'all think about this? Here's what you do it.
Okay. Ignition interlock devices. I'm not sure if you've heard of this before, but not the state of California, but Los Angeles is one of the cities where they already do this. When somebody's convicted of driving under the influence, one of the things that they have to do is have an ignition interlock device installed in their car. Basically what it is a breathalyzer. You get into your car, you blow into it, and if there's any alcohol involved, if you're over the limit, the car will not start. In fact, there's an alarm that goes off and it records it in the car. What we are suggesting,
And we're on a mission.
is to get these installed in all new vehicles and all vehicles, period. Because the lives saved are incredible. They've already done research and surveys on this, and it would save so many lives. For instance, did you know, and these are just people that admit to drunk driving, over 4 million people a month admit to drunk driving. So you know they're out there. People are fit. Well over 50% of the automobile crashes are as a result of drugs or alcohol.
So the lives that would be saved just by getting in a car going would be incredible. Wouldn't that be something? I mean, everyone that I've spoken to, I figured somebody would get upset and say, I don't want to. Everyone says it's a good idea.
Well, especially for those who have previous records. I mean, the amount of damage.
But for really anyone.
We're talking about forever.
Yeah, and there's so much danger out there on the road a lot of times when people say they have 2 beers.
Yeah.
When
Right.
we know it's far greater. And
They forgot
the
to
risk
talk
for our
about plus the
culture.
whiskey and whatever else,
and
right?
3 other shots and so forth.
So I take it from your response that you'd be all for it.
I like the idea. I'm a little careful about saying for everybody. I need to think about that one, but especially for people who have DUIs in their background.
But think about this: when our kids get in their cars, right?
Right.
I mean, and they're driving. If they're not drinking, what about somebody else that is? This is actually protecting everybody, and it's just making smart cars. Is what we're really talking about.
Well, I actually see a lot of parents liking this for their
Of course.
teenagers who say they're just going to a friend's house.
Right.
And
So Wendy, does this sound like something you're in on?
Well, I think all of us probably know someone who knows someone
Of course.
that has been harmed that way. And off the bat, I would say, oh, yes. But then when I think of the broader implications, I like Dan, I would say I want to think about that a little more.
Yeah, because I remember, I got a phone call from this lady, about a year and a half ago. It's terrible. She was thanking me for helping her 16-year-old, which then was 19, get sober. Had a year and a half sober, was killed by a drunk driver. These are the kinds of things that would stop that, and this guy had no past history. So we're thinking, you know what, people go out and drink, but so many of these drunk driving crashes are people that really didn't have a history. They went out, had too many drinks, and ended up killing somebody or getting arrested. So imagine the lives that we'd save, and imagine the people lives that wouldn't be complete chaos from getting arrested and that kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
So
one of the things I think we have the stereotype of, we think of the person who's on the street who's obviously drunk,
Right.
and who has all the real obvious signs. We don't think of that stay-at-home mom or that person who doesn't have all the stereotypes, who goes out on a holiday, has way too much to drink, and puts the public at risk.
Exactly. So that's kind of what we're thinking. We're trying to, imagine, how many drunk driving crashes and people get arrested every year. That would go away.
Well, I think Mike's right. The stats I read, it's about 50%
It
of
would
car
go away.
accidents involve somebody.
They would not be able to drive.
Right.
So it's pretty. It's really something that I think everybody should be starting to think in that direction. You're right. Everyone who's been arrested should always have that in there. But in general, people that are crashing from alcoholism or from alcohol-related things aren't people that got arrested before.
And you can't bring back those people that they may have killed
Right.
in a crash like that. So we just want to protect society, and it's not a big deal. I mean, it takes time to find your keys and to put them in the ignition and start it. So what's another 3 seconds to just blow in the breathalyzer before you turn it over to see what's happening?
And the life that might be saved.
And the lives that might be saved.
So it's
think
just
about
something we're pushing.
We're pushing
So
it.
we're talking a little bit about it on every show, and then we're going on from there and see where it goes. And let's do some more action items.
Well, Cary, this one is from a previous guest of ours who called us all the way from Maryland.
That's right.
That's right. And I'm probably going to mispronounce her last name, but she'll forgive me if she's listening. This was written by Mary Beth Shikotsi, and it's titled, "The Doves Should Cry for All Lives Lost." As saddened as I am at the death of Prince, the public reaction to the news angers me as the mother of a son who died under similar circumstances. What is so different about Prince than any other person who lost their life from an overdose? Why is there a difference between those who are rich and famous and those who are not? These feelings surfaced long ago when I heard of the deaths of Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston. Famous, but both died of the same combination of drugs that killed my not-so-famous son and many other not-so-famous sons and daughters. Yet there was no name-calling. Not once was the word addict used. They were both beautiful lives that were tragically cut too short. The media went crazy with tributes to both, while the sites of their deaths were overflowing with flowers and tributes from hundreds of public mourners. So now it's Prince who lost his life to the same opioids that killed 44,000 people in 2015. Public reaction is one of pity, shock, and sadness. What makes their death such a horrible tragedy when the death of your average Joe addict is cause for scrutiny and criticism? Why are the words drug use whispered behind closed doors instead of spoken in public? Why was the death of my son not viewed as a horrible tragedy? Why was his death the acceptable fate of one who uses and abuses drugs? And it goes on, Cary. It's a long one. I won't read it all, but that gives you basically the overview. And you know what?
We've been on the radio now for 17 minutes. One person's died already in this country from a drug overdose, minimum. That's a fact. By the end of this show, from 12 to 1 p.m., 3 people would have lost their lives from a drug overdose. And you know what? It won't be on television, won't make the papers, won't be on radio. They'll just be forgotten, but not by the family and friends. So I get it, Mary. I get it.
Absolutely. Something we talk about absolutely every Monday. And here's a couple. I just wanted to touch on these again. We read these last Monday, but they're very important. And for those of you who weren't with us, you may not have heard, but we have joy to report from Sacramento. The governor has signed some bills, and this is great. One of them is going to change the smoking age, from 18 to 21, which is great.
You all have been on Wilshire Boulevard or Santa Monica Boulevard with that neon sign about smoking deaths? Incredible, isn't it? It just, if you sit there and you park your car, you could see it just keeps going. There's so many people that die from cigarettes and cancer every year.
And continuing on he signed a whole pack of bills relating to this. One of them is going to restrict the use of electronic cigarettes in public places and expand non-smoking areas at public schools. This is very cool because they're also going to regulate those e-cigarettes just like cigarettes, just like a regular tobacco product. So that's going to protect a lot of people because we know what happens with vaping.
Vaping and e-cigarettes were actually introduced to help people get off of cigarettes. But more and more people now are starting to smoke or use vaping than people that would have smoked in the beginning. So it's causing more headaches than it.
And they're also smoking drugs as well.
Well, yeah. Now they found ways to use the vapors for other activities. Exactly.
Well, continuing on with vaping, and I read this last Monday, and this is a shocker, Cary. E-cigarette poisoning in kids is skyrocketing, according to a new study. The number of children under 6 poisoned by nicotine in e-cigarettes rose by nearly 1,500% between 2013 and 2015, and one child died. More than 90% of the children swallowed the nicotine-laced liquid known as e-juice that is smoked inside of e-cigarettes. And listen to this one. This is the stunner. Nearly half of the exposed children were under the age of 2. The number of children exposed to e-cigarettes...
Smells like candy.
It does. The number of children exposed to e-cigarette products each month rose from 14 in January 2012 to 223 in April 2015. On average, every 3 hours, a poison center receives a call about a young child exposed to an e-cigarette or liquid nicotine. That's more than 7 children each day. Now, liquid nicotine is very concentrated and easily absorbed by the body. In this study, children exposed to e-cigarettes and liquid nicotine were commonly experiencing severe clinical effects such as seizure, coma, and one of them, respiratory arrest. Children are attracted to the small, colorful bottles of liquid nicotine that come in a rainbow of colors and flavors, mimicking candy and desserts, bubble gum, gummy candy, marshmallow, chocolate, fruit flavors, glazed donuts, and pie crust.
Incredible.
Now, I have one other action item, and this is going to lead us into our
But
guests.
you all heard that about this little e-juice. Y'all better be extra careful if you have children, because it smells delicious.
Yeah. Now, before we go forward with this, and before we go forward with our guests, we just need to put out a warning for anybody listening that has small children in the vicinity. This could get just a little touchy. We're not going to do anything drastic here, not going to get explicit, but you just want to be a little careful. And I want to start this off by reading an action file item that this made the news here at KHTS last week. 2 suspects from Santa Clarita are among the 3 arrested by Los Angeles Regional Human Trafficking Task Force last week during the execution of search warrants at 5 separate locations throughout Southern California. Michael Shaw and Ashley Pert of Santa Clarita were arrested. And here's what happened. During a call for service, the city of Santa Clarita Sheriff's Department learned that Shaw was allegedly trafficking an adult victim for sex and had violently assaulted her when she attempted to flee. Shaw fled the location prior to the deputy's arrival, but didn't work. Los Angeles County Human Trafficking Force had reported previously that another person named Hamway had reportedly previously befriended the victim on Instagram and flew her out to California from Texas for the purpose of commercial adult sex work. After a short time, Hamway allegedly sold the victim to Shaw. After being trafficked by Shaw for several weeks, the victim attempted to flee and was allegedly assaulted by Shaw and Pert, who also reportedly robbed the victim. The victim sustained serious injuries from both assaults.
Incredible.
Yeah, just it's tragic what's happened. I actually talked to someone from our local Child Protective Services, just our local office, and they have 2 to 4 cases a month of child trafficking going on that they are investigating just for families or minors within Santa Clarita Valley.
Well, the reason that this has led us into what you're going to talk about today is you have an actual workshop coming up, right?
Right.
I mean, you work with people who are sexually abused on an ongoing basis at both Grace Baptist, and Wendy does this also for females. Is that correct?
Yes. At Grace Baptist. Yeah.
You do that at Grace Baptist, and so now you put together this presentation.
Right. So we just have a heart to really care for people who've been through that type of pain and who really want to have a sense of healing. And so we have groups ongoing and starting at the beginning of the fall, and then we actually have a seminar coming up, which we'll talk about later, where you can get equipped on how to help someone you know, a friend, a family member, someone you know who has that as part of their story where sexual abuse has occurred. And so we just really want to be a safe place to deal with that and get hope, because that can be so devastating for somebody in their life.
Now,
I'm sitting here reading my last night Facebook things where young girls are being prostituted for drugs. And I mean, it's right here. This was last night. And they know the people that are doing it, so they're trying to arrest them and stuff like that. This came from Simi Valley. It turns my stomach when I think about that, because he's a kid, 16 years old and younger. It's just incredible. So let's go ahead and take a break, Mike, and when we come back, we'll bring them in and we'll get into the show a little bit more. It's a show you don't want to miss. And again, if you have small children, you might want to just kind of think about it. This is Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.